Good morning, everyone. Thanks to everyone for joining. My name is Neno, product specialist here at Experlogix Digital Commerce. I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Adam Sutton, Director of PIM. Welcome, Adam. Good morning.
Thanks, Neno. Thank you for having me.
Great to have Adam here with us today, folks. We have a great partnership with PIM among many different system integrations, ERP integrations, but today's focus is going to be on how we're going to work together to introduce a PIM system to the offering, so Perfion, which is PIM's IT PIM system. And today, really, we're going to talk about why businesses need a PIM system, why WebShop loves a PIM system, and how we can leverage that in today's fastly changing world of e-commerce needs and online presence. Before I head over to Adam, so he can tell us a little bit more about what Perfion offers and how it's a differentiator in the market compared to other offerings out there. Just quickly wanted to talk about, from our perspective, how we see a PIM system, why it's important for your business, and how you can utilize it. We've worked with many of you over the last number of years, and in one degree to another, you've all asked us to manage your content differently. Some of you in the past have asked us to bring that content, whether it's product descriptions, images, PDF files, technical information, either to bring it from your whole system, from your ERP system, or to give you a way of a customization maybe, or a different way to upload that information, depending on whether that information is coming from. So some of it comes from manufacturers, some of it comes from existing sources that you might have used in the past. And the challenge has always been, how do you standardize that and how do you utilize it in the best way possible in order to bring it to the different channels you want to sell online, which whether that's WebShop itself, whether it's advertising online with Google, or for your AdWords campaigns, or whether you want to output this information maybe to different channels and different sources like Amazon, eBay, Shopify, Facebook, so on and so forth. And while we've done that effortlessly in the past, it has really meant in the past that to some level or another, we've always had to introduce some level of complexity, perhaps through customization in order to make that work. And with third-party systems and with different suppliers, inevitably the information is a little bit different. The format and the output of the information is a little bit different, which makes obviously maintaining that in the long term, for you, it presents an admin overhead, and first presents a challenge in terms of the conformity of the data and how we standardize this approach for all of our customers to have the same product offering across the board. So why a PIM system, and why Perfion, and why this partnership with PIM specifically? Quickly from my side before I hand over to Adam, the way we see this is a centralized system for storing, managing, and distributing all product data across all online channels. The benefit of that is that not only we can utilize it for your web shop needs, but then you can take that information obviously and use it towards different channels if you ever want to branch out and advertise online, like I said, or sell to different systems like Amazon, Shopify, eBay, Facebook, advertise online, and you have that same data conformity across all systems the way it's utilized on your website as well. It streamlines the process as well, making go-to-market faster, more consistent, and ultimately more standardized, more streamlined for your business, regardless of your business size, regardless of the industry that you're in or of the vertical that you're selling in. With that, Adam, a couple of questions from how you see your customer challenges, or our customer challenges that we work with, our common customers, and maybe some of the core benefits of Perfion PIM, especially in terms of integrations and efficiency in data systems, and what do customers come to you with and what they struggle with, how do you solve it?
Yes, I think a main challenge that customers come to us with is they've got numerous different systems, numerous different places for their product data. And again, it's about that consistency across the board, really. So how can you make sure that all of your customers and customers are getting the right information at the right time every single time, really? So whether it's numerous spreadsheets or ERP systems or files within someone's office, you're not really able to have one single source of truth, essentially. And what a PIM solution and Perfion specifically does is allow you to have that consistency across the board. For example, how many times have you visited a website and there's a technical specification that's from 2012, 2013? This information's probably changed in that time, but you wouldn't believe how many people, how many companies that are so successful have got these challenges that they're having to manually update with lots of human error. And again, not knowing what the latest version of that product data is, Perfium can ensure that you have that consistency across the board and the ability to make sure that that enrichment journey starts from wherever you need it to or wherever you want it to, is fully enriched, and then can be passed out to the likes of Experlogix, to the likes of print and digital content marketplaces, as you've just alluded to, really. So again, a PIM solution is something we see to be essential, really. And our integration with the likes of yourselves only helps for that journey to be made easier for customers around the world.
Excellent. Thanks for that overview, Adam. Much obliged. Just quickly, you mentioned regarding unifying product data, and in the sense of whether it's digital commerce or whether it's any other channel, when you're trying to get that data online, you're obviously looking for a unified solution to manage all of this product data and ensuring it's always up to date. You manage some key differences there between manufacturer information between the years or technical information between the years in the format that it's presented. And again, to me, from my personal experience working with our customers, it's regardless of, again, the business size or the industry. It doesn't matter if you're in manufacturing, if you're into spare parts, if your business is to do with pharmaceuticals, if it's to do with typical selling clothing, for example, retail online or whatever the case is, you'll always need that type of information, images for products, technical information, PDF data sheets, maybe translations if you're selling in different markets. One of the challenges that we come across when we're working with our customers is how that information is centralized, or how the data is enriched and what format it comes in, because they might have 2 or 3 legacy sources of that information, or some manufacturer information that doesn't necessarily align throughout the years, like you pointed out, and it's in different formats. So obviously, immediately what you're faced with as a business internally is kind of some of the admin overhead to streamline that, or to put it into a format that's reusable across numerous different channels. Can you please talk a little bit about how, as a single source of truth for any organization, Perfium manages that diversity, having those different sets of information, different formats, different structures?
Yeah, and again, I think it's a big part of a PIM solution to try and take that pain away from not just your customers, as you've specified there, Neno, but again, the people within this customer's business, really. So you talk about complexities around variants and models and spare parts, and where we do so well as a PIM solution within the manufacturing space is that we can handle this really complex product data and find a simple solution for it, really. So whether it's data inheritance, for example, so you have a parent level and any information that's matching below that, we can automatically inherit that down to the child level. So you're talking about color or size or brand, whatever that may be. It's a click of a button to have one product at the top, which has got the matching information, and can automatically filter down to 10, 15, 20,000 products below. And you can only imagine the time and effort that's saved there. And as well as the time and effort, you're safe in the knowledge that that's the correct product data for all of those products as well. And of course, mirroring that exactly how you want it to be across your website. The other side of things, when you're talking about that high level overview of people's day-to-day jobs, really, utilizing the likes of dashboards. So you could have anyone within a company using a dashboard, a personalized dashboard for them on a day-to-day basis. They log in, they can see what needs doing, what's missing, what's required for that product to get to its final stage, for want of a better phrase. And again, be safe in the knowledge that you're able to go in there, understand that specifications missing, or there's technical documents that haven't been completed, or there's images that may have expired from a rights point of view, and just features and functionalities that are only going to help everyone to not just understand that they're in the right place, but grow and expand as well. The likes of localization and translations is a massive thing for a number of our customers. And what you're able to do there is go in, see the English translation, for example, click a button, translate it. You can check it. You can make sure that it's the correct translation. But again, 99% of the time, what we have is integrations into the likes of DeepL and Google Translate. And just, again, we're not stepping on the toes of the likes of an ERP or Experlogix or a CRM system or a design system. We're complementing them. And I think that's a really big thing as part of this new way of working, almost, that you don't need a big monolith solution that wants to do everything. You've got a number of solutions that are really essential to plug it in, play in, and making sure that everyone's, again, lives are so much easier.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Adam. And quickly, I just want to jump over to the actual web client for Perfume at the moment. This is a demo system that we have connected to for the purpose of today's demo towards the end of this presentation. What I particularly like about this is the fact that quite easily and quickly, on a single click of a button, I can view my product catalog and the information that's specific to me and can customize that dashboard, like you said. So in this scenario where I am a marketing manager looking at digital commerce and I only perhaps only deal with the brand of the product, the description of the product, the images and some of the technical information or marketing information, I can actually customize these views quite quickly to see that particular information that is relevant to me. And then likewise, if I am somebody in procurement, for example, or somebody who is responsible for having the final product that's ready, like you spoke about, for validation of technical information, or perhaps you're in you're selling products in to do with safety and PPE gear, or chemical products that need some sort of certification or validation, which is obviously critical information to present online in terms of certification. I can customize these views to my needs to be able to present that to myself without affecting anybody's work.
Yeah, totally. And again, the likes of views is just one facet of being able to have that helicopter view of all of your product data. But of course, the reason why we want to move away from the likes of spreadsheets is that you see everything and anything, and that becomes really confusing and can almost stunt the growth in terms of making sure that every single product is fully enriched. With these views, you can really dial down into exactly what you're looking for, what's missing, what's needed, and per person within the company, they're able to see their specific remit and dial down into those products or features or attributes of that particular product and make sure that everything's looking good before you do start to send it out to the Experlogix website.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Adam. And the other thing that I quickly wanted to glance over as well is the fact that you can quite easily and quickly as well actually figure out what channels you're working with and what products are across those channels. So here, for example, we have a couple of demo channels set up. Obviously, our connection for e-commerce for Experlogix Online, which I'll be demonstrating now in a couple of minutes. But then separately, if you wanted to see if you have a separate catalog with separate information from the entire product catalog that's going off to Amazon, or something that requires maybe marketing approval or design to send off to Adobe InDesign, or it requires further marketing assets or anything like that, you can quickly and easily cycle between those and look at those channels separately and independently.
Well, yeah, and I feel that this is the modern world that we're working in now, isn't it? I think everyone wants to have that same experience they do maybe when they're walking into a shop in real life, so to speak. Really, you want to be able to have your products consistently across whatever channels that you're working within. So again, a PIM system allows you to do so in a quick and easy way. But again, it's not just to fire it out and see what the product data does. If you look at an e-commerce website, you look at the likes of Amazon, there's probably different rules and regulations for those products being put forward to that particular channel, really. And you talk about maybe print and digital content. A lot of our customers, and I'm sure a lot of yours, are very still well focused within catalogs that are printed out on an annual or biannual basis. Say an image for that catalog has to be the highest resolution because it's being printed and you want it to be as high resolution as possible. But then for a website, you might need to drop that resolution to make sure it loads better and can be seen online. What Perfume's able to do for the likes of images within our digital asset management system is to save one high resolution image and then basically just change per channel what that level of resolution is. So again, there's so many tips and tricks within the system that just take away the pain of everyday work for a number of customers that are constantly having to chop and change between different channels, different products, different images, different files, whatever that may be. And you can have that consistency and that ease of use.
Absolutely, 100% agree with that as well. And actually, that's a very valid point that you mentioned about the digital content, especially what to do with images, because we often get some of our customers wanting the naturally their content and their product presentation and online presence to be nice and crisp and look well. But then ultimately, if, as you mentioned, it's uploaded with the original resolution of an image, for example, of a product, and exceeds a certain scale or a certain resolution, inevitably can end up being maybe not penalized by let's say Google, but maybe much more so about loading speeds, especially if somebody's in a slower connection trying to load that content. It's in the original source of the image, can obviously take a little bit longer for that to load compared to the optimized version of the image. So that's a pretty handy way of dealing with that. And then separately, since we're on the matter of that, just quickly on, sorry, wrong slides. Quickly on the integration piece to existing IT systems, because I know there are many different examples that we've spoken about and how we can branch out to the different channels. But in terms of the integration to existing IT systems, native integration into ERP and bringing that information across to the different channels, briefly, if you can just talk about general onboarding and how does that work on a high level from a technical perspective in terms of onboarding customers and making sure the existing systems still remain intact. As you said, we're not taking anything apart, we're complementing it together and enriching it with anything else.
Exactly that, and we call it, or I call it more specifically, the Holy Trinity, really. So we have ERP, e-com, and PIM, three systems that I feel if you have as a business that's growing in the digital world, you're going to be built for the future, essentially. So what we do is we would pull information in from an ERP system in its infancy, really, whether it's just a SKU number or an EAN number or some pricing as well, and then take it into Perfion seamlessly. So we have native integrations into all the big ERP players. What we will do is send out a prompt to the ERP and say, if you've got any new products for me, they would then be surfaced within Perfion across the dashboards, and you can start that enrichment process, whether it's a product team or a marketing team or an IT team or a design team. They see their specific day-to-day tasks, and you're able to work through that with the likes of progress, Boolean switches, percentage indicators, whatever that may be, and pass it downstream to the next stage. From an ERP point of view, again, you don't want product data that's handled in an ERP or images or supporting documents. What you do want is you want that ERP to talk to Perfion, talk to the PIM solution, and just know what's being passed back and forth from that system. And then, of course, as we've just alluded to, the ability to have multiple channels, especially an e-com solution, that we can have surfacing and be safe in the knowledge that it's the right product, the right information, the right supporting documents, the right image, and whatever else needed at the right time.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Adam. Thanks for that conclusive answer. Just quickly then, before I jump into talking about the actual nitty-gritty of managing the two together, now we're going to bring that product data across and actually speak a little bit about the integration from our sites and what we're able to do. Just a reminder for our guests that you can ask anything in the QA section. So I'm just going to create a little post, and you can obviously comment on that, or you can ask your own questions in the QA section that we'll be able to answer with Adam, hopefully later on, if you have any such questions. But just quickly onto the next piece here. So we actually inadvertently went backwards here because it was meant to show the slide before we jumped into the Perfion web client, but we did that anyway. So again, we spoke about the different views, the different dashboards, the different channels. For the purpose of today's demo, what I wanted to show our customers how we're going to integrate with PIM and bring this data across to digital commerce with Experlogix. I'm going to focus on coffee makers because particularly I'm a coffee lover. I like my coffee throughout the day. I'm sure many of you are on the call. And what I wanted to show today is how quickly and easily, with a couple of clicks and steps with a workflow editor that we are internally calling Flow, we're going to bring this data across. Now, this is very much in alpha testing at the moment. It's a proof of concept. The name could probably change, the editor and the layout and the visuals can change. But I just wanted to bring you, show you that today, or give you a sneak peek for everyone that's joined us today for this webinar as to how you manage this information. And in terms of that, just quickly, why are we doing this and why we want to give you more control for you to be able to manage that yourselves as our customers? The way that this is going today, it doesn't matter if you're talking about digital commerce. It doesn't matter if you're trying to create any sort of automation online for perhaps your social media and online presence. I'm sure some of you might have looked into that already, regardless of, again, whether it's directly for the products and the business online or for your general online presence. And then that you've looked into, for example, you might have seen tools like N8N. These are workflow editors and with a drag and drop interface that allow you to have a step-by-step workflow and automation. They consist of different nodes that perform a specific operation that allow you to map data or translations. We spoke about that for product translations in the sense of digital commerce and what Adam was talking about, what challenge that presents for some customers using PIM systems today, for example, and how you can create an automated pipeline. So we're trying to have a similar approach here. The reason for that is obviously it gives you flexibility and reliability in terms of mapping the data and seeing the input of the information and the output and the end result. Transform that information, and then of course have that visual interface that's easy to understand and have some login behind it as well to tell you what's successful and what isn't, for example. So with that, I just want to quickly jump into here to show you what that looks like. Before we start, just to say that it's not smoke and mirrors. This is a live demo, so if anything goes wrong, please don't shoot me. Hopefully everything goes according to plan. You can see here, for most of you that are used to this digital commerce interface already, this is the management interface, the back end of WebShop. You can see that I don't have any products that are currently available in my catalog. In the traditional sense, obviously, you can import directly from host or use a spreadsheet. We spoke about that already with Adam as well. There's a certain pain point associated with that in terms of spreadsheets because everybody gets tired of them. So you might have a spreadsheet for the product content, the product name, the product description. Then you might have a separate spreadsheet in a separate format for technical specifications or some level of automation, perhaps for bringing across images over FTP or attaching them again by referencing a URL. Then you may have a separate spreadsheet yet again for categories, for example, or create multiple departments or multiple brands and the general categories that the products belong to. And then some of you may use product variants, and these are uploaded again with a separate spreadsheet. So you might be talking about 3 or 4 or 5 different sets of spreadsheets that live within inside the organization in order to manage different content. And for marketing managers and for e-commerce managers, that becomes a pain point over time. Now, I personally don't have anything against spreadsheets. I think they're great, especially if you know what the format is. And of course, they are, in a way, a source of truth as well, especially if you have a master spreadsheet. I guess what we recognize as the pain point is that once you've done those initial uploads, and I'm sure that is the case for your customers as well, Adam, initially, in order to put that information into Perfion in order to get started, you have to go through that cycle once. But the beauty behind that becomes that after you've done that, in order to update that content, you no longer have to perform those actions. Once you have all of those master data sets, you can manipulate them and update them, create certain automations behind them in Perfion. And I'll show you how we can do that with digital commerce. Would that be correct to say, Adam?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the ability to not rewrite the wheel from a spreadsheet point of view, but to just modernize it really and build it to last, for want of a better phrase, because again, what you're able to do with the spreadsheet is great, and you can have, as you've seen from Perfion, it doesn't probably look too different in terms of cells and rows and how things are presented. But again, it's just that consistent single source of truth. You haven't got an old version of that spreadsheet, or you haven't got 50, 60 different versions of that spreadsheet. A master spreadsheet sounds great, but how often is that the case within one company? You need to make sure that you've got a system that's built exactly for that.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Adam. And then a quick question from one of our customers. So thank you, Sebastian, for that question. That's a very good question, actually. Does Perfion integrate with Intact IQ? There are many different integrations. I think at the moment you have SAP and Business Central and a couple of other things, but I think there is an open source API that can be used for Intact IQ. But correct me if I'm wrong, Adam. So this is one of our customers that's currently on Intact's ERP system.
Yeah, so we've worked with a number of the Intact products over the past, really, in terms of a native integration. We work mainly with Microsoft and SAP, but again, we haven't found an ERP that we can't work with from a data pulling point of view, really. So in short, I'd say, yes, of course, we can work with it. It's probably just about what Sebastian and his team are looking for specifically within that pulling of data. So yeah, if you're wanting to get information from Intact into Perfion, then it definitely can be done.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Adam. And then Sebastian as well, if you need some additional information, if you want to give us some more data as to what challenge exactly you're looking to solve, because I know we've previously had some conversations about this, Sebastian, as well, and I know you've had some queries and support. Please do let us know, either myself or maybe reach out to Lindsay, or you can even log up with support, and then we can talk to Adam and his team separate to see how we can solve this for you, but definitely happy to help out there. I'm conscious of time, so I just want to quickly jump into an example demo and to talk about what I started talking about before we reverted here into different conversations. So I spoke about spreadsheets, I spoke about the number of different formats that you may need in order to populate your catalog, in order to achieve that product enrichment and detailed information regarding PDFs, technical specifications, images, product information, product translations, which are also a challenge, especially like we spoke about if you're selling in different markets with different languages and how that's managed. So the drag and drop editor that we're calling DC Flow, like I said, proof of concept. So hopefully this goes okay for me today. It's a live demo, like I said. As we said, there are no products you can see here in the back end at the moment. In the interest of time, obviously, I'm not going to go through step by step, but just to explain at a high level what this is. You have your different models here on the left-hand side. So an entry model, a save model, an exit model, so a starting point and an end point, and so on and so forth. From a data perspective, most of you will be familiar from this, whether you can make a request to a system or an API or a CSV file that you're mapping from, or an XML file that you're mapping from, once that file exists in the backend in the management interface. And fear not, if some of these things are double dust here, don't make sense. In the beginning of setting this up, you'll be working with both ourselves from our sides, consultancy-wise, and then obviously with our colleagues in Perfion as well, in order to set this up, in order for the workflows and the data to work correctly. So some of this will be pre-set up for you for initial testing, for you to be able to see how the data flows, and then we can show you how to make changes as you go along. But the idea behind it is that it's self-explanatory. You can see here the mapping data points here that can map product information, product categories, category trees, and product translations. We'll be introducing more as we go along. And then, of course, there are certain data manipulations that you can do. Replace text. In this case, we've actually fixed a base URL because on the demo system that we're using for today's presentation, some of the URLs are referenced as local URLs. Obviously, that's a local demo system, so we need to replace them with live URLs in order to be able to fetch images and things like that. So in this particular example, quickly, if you open each node here, we're just replacing the local code with the actual Perfion live URL in this example. So the idea behind all of these things, when you put them together, is that, like we said, they're visual and drag and drop interface for the data. Before you get to that, you define your starting point, how you connect to the host, how these are linked together. So in this case, we have, okay, let's go off and obtain product information from an endpoint over an API call from Perfion. You can run that node, test that node by itself individually, and then automate each next step from there in terms of, you can, I suppose, refer to this as a digital flow chart. This will help you automate tasks and reduce those manual errors that we spoke about managing multiple different spreadsheets. Separately to that, it also allows you to see information as it moves from start to finish without having to save it. So you can actually perform these steps for each individual node before you even go near anything in production. And then you can save it. So you can run it once, you can see what the output looks like. If you've got any errors, go off and fix them, test the next node, and so on and so forth. And you can obviously drag and drop these, you can unlink them, etc., etc., etc. So you can see from here, we've started with the basic connection to Perfion. We're getting the XML version of the products, we're mapping the products, and then we're saving them. And from here, we're doing additional tasks such as mapping to brands, mapping to categories, and we've even got off as far as doing translations for the purpose of today's presentation. In the interest of time, not to go into each one, but let's run a single node to show you how it all works, because we're talking about a visual editor and how you can replace certain things here. So if I run that node now, I can see, sorry, I need to run the other node actually first. Connected. Famous last words. So now we can see that we've run that connection to Perfion, and here on the right hand side, you can see what my output is. So you can see the products that I showed you in Perfion with that connection. Obviously, that's my e-commerce product tree or product family, and within that, I can see the you can see here that I can see different translations. This is German, for example, the original product description that this comes from. So again, to show you that it's not smoke and mirrors, that it's actually working in real life, so to speak. If we could jump back into Perfion here, there's my product family tree. Here's my products, and here's my product descriptions. So here's my original English description about what the product is about. So it's a French coffee maker. Jumping back into our editor here, you can see how these objects, as we call them, or what they're called on the API code, come back as parts of the content. So here's my English description for the French coffee maker that lives within that product family tree. And then here's my German translation. So this allows you to see the output. So that's node number one. So we know that this is working. So now you can see here that we've performed the first 3 steps here. Obviously, the rest of the steps are not performed. So let's jump into this now that we know that the first 2 nodes are working. Let's run this node. And again, I can see here now that information is now on the right-hand side in terms of the output that we have. This is what we use in Experlogix Digital Commerce as the field mapping. So you have your product name, your product text, your product codes, meta keywords, meta description, all of that information. A lot of you are already used to that information using with the management interface in the back end. What's quite handy in here is that once I know these paths as their codes in terms of the API output, I can actually change them. So for example, if I wanted to remap something here, I can quickly and easily take a different value based on the responses that you see in the other section. So let's say I wanted to add additional translations, not just German and French, or if I wanted to add technical specification, or the product here, for example, had, I think, some technical information like height and length, weight, category, color, that type of stuff. So for example, if I wanted to get the color, all I have to do is go back into my product responses from the Perfion API and map that into this drag and drop editor by simply taking the value from that response and mapping it in here quite easily to do that. But I'm aware that we're running over now, so quickly and easily, just to finish my entire workflow. So here we're actually going to save the product. So we go into here, run that node. So now we're combining all of that information. Here's my XML response. Here's everything that is mapped on that XML response that's coming through. Again, I can take some of these values and replace them to map them on the output of the right in the previous step if I wanted to change something. So that's working. So now let's execute the entire workflow. In this case, what we're going to do is not only save the products in the backend, we're actually going to bring across some images like we show you in the Perfion web client, some translations. We're going to use German and French in this example, and some categories as brands. So let's actually run the entire workflow, and fingers crossed everything is good. Here in the workflow editor, you can see our outputs. Some of this information may seem a little bit technical at first, which is why we've introduced separately to this, obviously, monitor here, observability, which is obviously important for some of the work that you're going to be doing. We are introducing, we might end up calling it metrics, but for the moment it's called metrics. But here you can see from an observability perspective point of view, you can see each task that it was performed. You can obviously cycle through a period of time if you wanted to, and then you can have an individual breakdown of each of those and what happened in each step. So here's my workflow event and log. So here I'm getting my products back from Perfion, the description of what's happened. And again, if there's an error or if there's something not mapped correctly, you'll be able to review it in here, go back to the workflow editor and modify accordingly. But let's jump back into our catalog to the proof is in the pudding, as they say. And if I refresh this page, I should now have 10 products. Awesome. So I do. So here's my products brought across with the same names. And if I go to, as they were in the web client in Perfion, if I go to the product details, I can see the content has been mapped as per our mapping system that we showed in step 3 about the saved product and XML mapping of those nodes. I have my main image as it is from the Perfion web client. So if I drag it across, you can see that that matches. You can have, I have my name. You can see I have my descriptions here, and I've actually brought across my translations as well. And just to show you that I've actually brought across my translations, if I go to my content, switch to, let's go with German because it's the first available one, you can see that now I have the German version translation of that. So within a couple of steps and within a couple of clicks, I've not only mapped products and categories and brands, and actually just to show you that the brands are mapped as well. If I go to the product category editor, you can see here that I've mapped the brand multiple times. In this case, I've actually made a mistake here because I've duplicated the category several times by running those nodes. But there's an example of something you'll be able to fix with a node and add exclusions to say only map the brand once if it already exists. This is why we're introducing, going back to the workflow editor, this is why we talked about merging data or data manipulation. That's why we have those tools for you to make sure there's no duplication, etc. So that's an example where you'll be able to use that. But you can see that that has been brought across to the product. And the end result of that is that within a couple of clicks, I've ended up with a catalog of 10 products managed in multiple different languages. So if I go to the products on the front end now, here it is right away. Here's the German version because that's what I switched in the back end. Here's the German name of the product as well. The same product code, same image as it was in the Perfion web client. And then if I switch back to English, again, my brand is mapped here as well, so you can see it from here. So here's my English version. Here's the English version of the product description. And then, of course, I can browse the rest of the catalog by that brand as well for the other products that have been brought across. So I hope this was useful for everybody. I know we're nearly 10 minutes over, so thanks for everyone's patience and thanks for Adam for sticking around. Maybe an opportunity to answer a couple of extra questions for some of our customers. Bear with me. Based on that sheets. Okay, that's again Sebastian with some excellent questions that I think I will be able to answer. Is there a node to connect to OpenAI to write product description based on that sheets? There currently isn't, but similar to what Adam responded himself to the connection to Intech, there's absolutely no reason why we're not able to do this. So some of you may already know we're already using an OpenAI connector for your product descriptions in general. Experlogix Digital Commerce, so you can actually generate product descriptions with through OpenAI with the prompt that we have. So this is this little guy here. Just everybody knows what I'm talking about. So I can actually go off and generate content using OpenAI already. There's no reason why we can't bring this, and they actually are giving us an excellent use case, Sebastian. So thanks for the idea. We can actually bring an AI agent to the flow editor to help us generate some of this information and product descriptions of what is actually going to be the automation of the node. So thank you very much for that question, Sebastian. Excellent. But maybe, Adam, this is a good opportunity to speak about some of the AI capabilities of Perfion itself. So maybe you don't necessarily want to do the generation of that information on our end as a final step or in the nodes. Maybe you want to do it here. Do you want to briefly talk about that separately?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the utilization of AI is, of course, creeping into any system we use and product that we use. And similar to Sebastian's question there, what we have is the ability to generate product descriptions through ChatGPT. There could be a technical description or a marketing description. We also have, of course, the translations that we've spoken about before. There's lots of different AI within Perfion, the likes of having a height, a weight, a depth, whatever it may be, and generating a formula from that. But within, you can see here on the screen at the top where you have items, channels, dashboards, tools, etc. The far right one has actions, and that is our AI database. And what you're able to do is just create as many cool ways of quickening and easing the process within your day-to-day remit. And again, there's so many things that are probably well above my head from a technical point of view, but definitely not some of my colleagues. So if you want to find out how much Paving can do from an automation point of view, then please feel free to reach out, because there's some amazing things that our customers have done which have gone beyond our wildest dreams, really. And that's exactly what it's there for, to be able for you to build exactly what your particular problem is and try and solve it with some automation.
Excellent. Very, very valuable. And thank you very much for that, Adam, and for that overview. Super question, Sebastian, as well. Thanks for that. That's a good use case. And thank you for Adam for this excellent example, because I can see this being quite useful, because of course we can bring across some AI tooling in here and maybe automate some of these steps, especially at the start in terms of the connection or the output of the results, or creating a default mapping of product information. But that's a good use case here as to how we can improve some of the flows with AI. Separate to that, I think it's a very valid to think about this from a PIM integration point of view, to manage this before it even comes to being mapped into digital commerce, to manage this information in here. So it's great to know that these tools already exist and to be able to automate a lot of that for customers. So thank you very much for that. We're now 12 minutes over. So again, thank you very much for everyone attending and for your patience. Again, huge thanks to Adam for joining us today. Very much obliged, Adam. Great to see you and great to talk to you again. Great to be working together. Have a great remainder of your week, everybody. And if you have any additional questions, happy to answer them. You can obviously send that directly to me. You can send them to our support colleagues to be able to answer them from there. And of course, if there's any questions for Adam and his team, please send them along and we'll be able to share them as well with them and work together to be able to answer that for you.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Neno, and yeah, look forward to hopefully hearing more. And as I say, any questions that I can't answer, I'm sure there's some clever guys that work at PIM that are able to do so.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Adam. Once again, thanks for our guests as well for joining.
Thanks all.
Cheers.